Hey folks, this is Nate coming at you on the end of the month, at May 31st. So tonight I've finally gotten the style codes finished for episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. So this is going to be a shorter demo because there's only about 4 or 5 presets for this one. So the first two are Luke Skywalker's. And there are 2 slight variations on his Graflex blue. So we've got the first one, which is his Hoth / Dagobah blue, and which has a little bit more green in the mixture. And then we've got his Bespin blue, which is just as bright, but it has less green in the mixture. So there's slightly different variations. They might be a little hard to pick up on camera, the differences, but on the actual blade in front of you, off camera, it's pretty noticeable. So anyway, so those are the 2 Luke style codes, and then I've got 3 variations of Vader's, which are all using the same main blade RGB value, but I'm using 3 different main blade styles. Part of the reason for this is that in The Empire Strikes Back, as well as A New Hope, Vader's blade does a lot of flickering. And so I think it was just, having to do with the way that the movie was filmed at the time, back in the early 80s. But the blades on camera just did a lot of flickering. And so I took that as sort of an opportunity to do some variations on different ways that I could get his blade to flicker. So for Vader, I'm doing 3 different variations on his red value. I'm doing a double audio flicker for the first one. So it's got like a main blade value, and then it ratios at 2/3 and then 1/3 with 2 audio flicker layers. That's the first one. The second one is a hump flicker, which has a really small hump flicker size for that sparking effect. And then the third version I'm doing is a random flicker, which is sort of an older blade style that came out of Fett's. I think is either his OS4 or his OS5 library. I don't use the random flicker main blade style code very often, but every once in a while it definitely fits the bill, and this is one of those times, so I'm using that one. So those are the 3 different Vader variations. So let's get started. So the first 2 are Luke presets, and these are both the same sound font. This is the ESB Graflex V2 from Kyberphonic.
Commander Skywalker, do you copy?
So this is the Hoth Dagobah blue, and I'm using the emitter wick.
I'll never join you! No! No!
Here are his blasts. Now his blasts, I do custom, and this blast effect mainly came from, I think, that brief interaction he had with Boba Fett on Bespin. So these are orange-red blast waves with gold sparkles in the middle of them. this is the, which one is this one? Make sure I got this one right. Yeah, this is the hump flicker style.
Why didn't you tell me?
And then this next one,
Commander Skywalker, do you copy?
is a rotoscope. And this is his Bespin blue. Now, as you can see, it doesn't look a whole lot different, but when you look at it up close, you'll notice that there's a lot less green in the mixture on this blue. And I think part of that had to do with, it may have just been the difference in the coloring that they did with the props in the movie, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that his Saber, when he used it on Hoth, was against a much brighter background, and so they had to change the mixture to make the blade more visible, whereas on Bespin, his fight scene with Vader is in a much darker background, and so the blue just came out, you know, in a different way. So I think that may account for some of the difference in the coloring. But that's just me guessing. I don't really know for sure. All I know is when I was doing my color matching, I did a lot of sampling as much as I could between the two, because I noticed a small difference in the blade colors between the two phases of the movie, and so I took as much color sampling as I could find, and for both. And it took me a while to pin down exactly where the difference was, and the difference ended up being in that green mixture. One of the other challenges too is that in the movie, and again, this has a lot to do with just the age at when these movies were produced. In the fight scene with Vader on Bespin, the blade size is they're using that much thinner blade prop, or they're using that rod, right? Whereas in his scene, like against the Wampa in the Hoth, the blade size is like full size. You can see it like full size. It doesn't look really, really thin, like toothpick thin, the way that it does when he fights Vader and Bespin.
You'll find I'm full of surprises. Why didn't you tell me?
Okay, so those are the two Luke Graphlix blues for Empire Strikes Back. Now let's move on to Vader. So Vader's main blade color is the same as it was in A New Hope. It's the RGB 183 in the red, 12 in the green, and 3 in the blue. So it's got a very small tinge of orange, but very, very small. But the red is fairly light. And this first version is the double audio flicker. And this is, sound font I'm using here is Father ESBV2 from Kyberphonic. So you can get really heavy flicker here. clashes and lockup effects in episode 5 versus episode 4. In episode 4 versus Kenobi, a lot of their clashes had a lot of green flashing to them. There was no green at all in Empire Strikes Back. It was predominantly sort of your off-white cream reflections off the lockups and the clashes.
Destiny lies with me, Skywalker. It's not true. Don't make me destroy you.
And this next one is Vader Strikes Back from Syndicate Customs. And this is the hum flicker. A little less flicker. But you can still see some business going on over here. The main thing I really wanted to go for on Vader's blade for Empire Strikes Back was that clash, the flashing on that clash. Even though it's a focused bump, I wanted that full blade flash that's instantaneous before it reduces down into that focus.
Vader.
Excuse me. And then the third and last one that I have in the presets for Empire Strikes Back is the OTVader font from Madcow. Now this OTVader, the sound font itself, is really just an original trilogy generic Vader sound font. So you're going to hear some clash and blast effects that you might recognize from A New Hope and from ESB and from Return of the Jedi. But the reason I stuck it in here with Empire Strikes Back was because it was much different in the sound font construction as the Return of the Jedi fonts that I have for Vader. So I stuck it here for Empire Strikes Back because most of the sound effects that I heard from this one were more reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back. And this is the random flicker blade. And this one, I think, is of the three. I think the random flicker is probably the more accurate one in terms of how Vader's blade flickers in his fight with Luke on Bespin. But you notice like a lot of those clashes, those are definitely like fighting in the carbon chamber on Bespin, those clash sounds. There's even one that sounds like it when he hits the pole. That one.
Our long-awaited meeting has come at last.
Now, Madcow is one of the OGs on the Saber community, and a lot of the sound fonts he did were actually pre-smooth swing. So you'll still hear those things like when you play the force effect with the quote track. It actually it silences the hum because they don't play in parallel like that.
The Emperor is not as forgiving as I am.
And then the hum comes back. Anyway, just to say his fonts, Madcow's fonts are very old, but they're still really good. So if you're not familiar with him at all, he's on saberfont.com. He doesn't have a whole lot of fonts, but the ones he has are really good, like OTVader and Shatterpoint, which is the Mace Windu font, and Ashes, which is actually one of my favorites. So those are the style codes I have for episode 5, and in the 5th installment of my Canon Bladestyles project. So I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if this went a little too long, even though there's only 5 presets. But I had still having a lot of fun putting these together. I know I've done demos of a lot of these blade styles in previous videos months ago. So just so a lot of you know, like I think when I first had my Evoflex, I think I did a demo on my Evoflex of like all of my Graflex blade styles at that point. Those blade styles, those style codes are like V1s. So what you see here are my V2s, or my most up-to-date versions of the Graflex stuff. So I'll make sure and notate that when I put these style codes in pastebin. I'll make sure that y'all know that these are like the V2s, or the most current. So if you've gotten any of my earlier Graflex style codes, you'll definitely want to update them with the ones I post here from this Blade Styles project for episode 1 through 6. And then I will eventually go through the sequel trilogy, doing episodes 7 through 9. But that's a whole different kettle of fish. Because, it just is. There's just a lot of different stuff to do. So I'm going to handle that project completely separately. So anyway, episode 6 is almost done. I just have to finish up Vader's Return of the Jedi Red, because that red is a little bit different from his A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back red. A little bit different. And so once I get that finished, I'm good to go. I already have all of Luke's green variants done and ready to go. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great weekend. You know, we're done with May, on to June. Hopefully some nice weather and some good times. All right, y'all, take care. May the Force be with you.